I'm so excited to be here with all of you today, and particularly to be here to introduce you to a dear friend and a mentor of mine, Gail, the President and Executive Director of the Asia Pacific Fund. I work as a program officer at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and I work in a program called Global Libraries, and I'm deeply passionate about the role that public libraries can play in bringing internet access and access to computers to people, particularly in developing countries. But I'm not here to talk about that today. 4 years ago, I had an opportunity as the PARSA Community Foundation was getting started to work with Nushin and some of her team. And it was such a privilege to be able to see this as it was being born. And now, 4 years later, to see how far it has actually come. And when Nushin called and asked if I would come today and join you, it just gave me, I was so excited, and it just gave me so much pride to see what all of you have achieved in such a short time. Gail is one of the stars among the people who've been working in ethnic community philanthropy. 15 years ago, in 1993, she helped to establish the Asian Pacific Fund, and she's worked tirelessly with the Asian community in the Bay Area to create a base that can support that community here in the Bay Area. Previously, she worked in New York City. She was the first Asian commissioner of the Voter Assistance Commission and a board member of the Chinatown Planning Council. And she's really understood that in building the community foundation, it's about money, but it's not just about money. It's about community building, it's about policy, it's about politics. And I'm just so excited that she'll have an opportunity to share some of that with us today.
And we're both Virgos, too. So we've actually celebrated our birthdays together for many years, and we would have missed otherwise had you not brought us together.
So, one of the things that I know has been something that PARSA has been looking at and has been a challenge is how do you engage new people in an ethnic community in philanthropy? And I'm curious to hear, as you've worked with the Asian community in the Bay Area, what are some of the most successful strategies that you've had to attract new donors into philanthropy, Gail?
So people talked a lot today about business models, and I'm going to come back to the issue of microfinance, but we, when we started in '93, had benefit of a foundation grant to actually look at the local community foundations. Silicon Valley, then the Peninsula one, San Francisco, Marin, East Bay. These are all big outfits with endowments that exceed now, well, probably today, $500 million, a little while ago maybe $1 billion. And we went around to all of them and we said, how did you become successful and permanent, which was our goal. We wanted a permanent community resource. And they told us what their business model was, and it was basically waiting for someone to die. So they all struggled for about 10 years, and someone they didn't expect to give them a major gift died, and that's what made them stable. They were all stable at a $20 million endowment. And I think that, to go back to Michael's question about how to engage people, we really did adopt that mainstream model of saying, we're going to try to build an institution that is responsive to a community of donors. And we had to learn what was going to interest. We had to find out what was going to interest those donors. Talat talked about memberships in clubs and other things, how to attract people into her center. And because our model was primarily a fundraising, grant-making organization, and we still are that, we had to figure out ways to get visible with people about needs in the community and motivate them to give. The first thing that we did was to try to attract a really strong leadership group, because someone said earlier, your board is important, and we were very lucky. We ended up with the A-list in the Bay Area at the time we started. So Changlin Tian, who was the chancellor at UC Berkeley and the first Asian American to head a major university, agreed to serve on our board, even though we had no other board members. He just thought the idea was good. And he joined the board over the objections of his own fundraising staff at the university, because they didn't want him to be fiddling around with these other things. And he was just a magnet. But we tried to stay at that level. We recruited Arun Sarin, who was the head of AirTouch at the time, Jerry Yang at Yahoo. There were people who, and then everybody wanted to serve on a board with them. And we did it, we tried to do it as carefully as possible. It's hard to do because there aren't that many Asians who are executives in the CEO level. And I will add also that someone said earlier about CEOs in committees and so forth. We have actually bypassed recruiting some CEOs to our board because we try to test whether or not they can work well in a group, because that is the essence of this kind of enterprise. It's a group process. And I think the challenge for us has also been, we've always tried to be Pan-Asian. And that, there are different cultures, the groups don't get along with one another, some of them wage war on each other. These are no small things. And everybody has their own internal politics, and you can, we try to have a very diverse staff, so we're smart inside, but our staff is small. So consideration of all those things. But again, to go back to Michael's core question, it really is trying to be responsive to the donors. Particularly if you're trying to raise money, it is not membership dues. If you're trying to keep your organization going, because people give from their hearts to things that they care about, you have to learn what it is they care about and in what terms. I have said I'm breaking in my 15th fundraising person. Actually, she's not the 15th, but the 6th fundraising managerial staff. And she was quite surprised because everybody I hire is always very big advocates. They love Asian American stuff, they want to be involved, all that's fine. And I said to her, but when you're working with major donors, you have to be very careful about politics. Don't assume that they are going to have the same advocacy spot as you do. She was kind of stunned by that. So I always say that we position the Asian Pacific Fund just to the right, just to the left of Walt Disney. And I really mean that seriously. And we even tested our on boards when we were trying to do fundraising. There were issues that were affecting the Asian community. And I said, do you want to do this? Immigration issues. And they said, that's not the Asian Pacific Fund. We have to be appealing to all donors. Now, I don't know that that has been the most successful route. I've watched other groups, gay and lesbian groups, Latino, African American, women's groups. They've all been more successful more quickly than we have been because they've gone in on an advocacy platform. So it could be that that has hurt us.
So related to that, Gail, are there things that are unique to working with Asian donors?
I think there are, but a good friend of mine told me, she always has all these funny sayings. She said, we have no path to follow, but we'll leave a trail behind. She may be quoting someone else. I thought that there would be differences, but no one could tell me if there were. So I've spent 15 years looking around and trying to figure it out. I feel like I have a reasonably good, I'm Chinese American, but third generation. And so I don't fit well with most Asian Americans because 2/3 of them are immigrants. Okay? So I have to listen really carefully and watch really carefully about what they're interested in and so forth. And then within the ethnic groups, I think I now know Filipinos pretty well, Chinese kind of, Japanese some. The other groups I'm not quite so sure of. I do think that there are differences. There are definitely, as immigrants, political concerns. They vary on how much they look home for their philanthropy. Do they blend that? Do they have a sense that the so-called Asian American community is that important to them? I mean, we knew from the beginning that everyone would identify with their own ethnic group. And so every piece of marketing that we did named the ethnic groups. All the committees were diverse. The board has to be diverse. So we knew we had to say to people, you count. If you are used to being left out, you count. So I think that's different. But I also think that the approaches are different. How you talk to people. I often say to folks that I work with who have not been used to the Asian community that trust is really important. Relationship is very, very important.